Hi students. Let's see what we took yesterday. In yesterday's lesson, we had the reading lesson, which was actually an interesting lesson. There were a lot of things that we talked about, and the benefits of these lessons, that you learn information and you learn new things besides the skills that we have and we are applying every day. Okay, now in our reading lesson, we talked about, of course, concerning the gender divide, which is our basic lesson. We had the title, which is Do Men and Women Speak the Same Language? This is something interesting, and we had a lot of details about it. Now, the details that we had concerned, first, we can say the differences between men and women, purpose of communication, how men communicate, the content of what males and females talk about, exploring problems, the way they listen, how the brain is structured and wired, raising impact, and at the end we talked about the balance between the two genders and the way that they communicate. Now here, this is what we took in our lesson. Basically, the topic of communication is not something new. Now, we talked about communicating and how to interact with others from the start of the semester, from the intro, which was before even Unit 1. Now, some of the things that we discussed while during the semester, we have here, how do we communicate? We, of course, have a lot of ways to communicate. Now, in Unit 1, we had the teamwork and how to communicate with other members. Also, we had in Unit 2, which is Rags to Riches, the famous figures, and how, as leaders, they communicated and they succeeded in accomplishing a lot of things that they happened or they did, including team members. Okay, so nobody can do anything just as one member. We have also the other topic, which is the future and what will they think of next, which also included something about technology and communication. And then we moved to what we see or watch on TV, which is the world of TV. And there was also, of course, the basic part, which is communicating with other people, which moved us to advertisements and what advertisers have to communicate and to just transmit to other people. And of course, we have our last unit, which is the gender divide, and the basic thing is the communication between the two genders. Okay, now we have our question, what other ways are there for people to communicate? Now, all of these things that we talked about, and still there are other ways for people to communicate. So how? Do you remember that we had this form at the beginning when we were discussing the intro part? Now, I told you from the start that we have here the formal and informal ways to communicate. We have also the oral and written way. We have the internal and external, and do you remember when I told you about the school, and we said that the communication inside the school is an internal way, and the communication with the school outside with other parts is external. And we have here the verbal and nonverbal part, which is actually going to be our topic for today's lesson. So we have here, I want you just to see this video, and you will understand what we're going to write about and what we will discuss, inshallah, in our lesson. We have here, just observe. Now you can see this young man, he is talking to someone, of course online. We do not know who he is talking to or what he is talking about, but from the way that he is talking, we know from his face that he is serious. He could be talking about work or studies. He is trying to explain something to someone else. And there is also another part here, if you can see. Now also you can see that this young man is in a meeting. Now he is going to just discuss something, some part with the other gentleman. We have here, he is, yes, he's happy, he is approving. And also you can see that we have here, yes, he gave the gesture. So also here we do not know what they are talking about, but we know that there is an agreement, that he is agreeing, he is showing a positive side here from his facial expressions and from the gestures that he gave. So this is what we mean by nonverbal. We have here our lesson. The question, do we mostly communicate through verbal or nonverbal language? So what do you think? Can you go a full day without using nonverbal language? Is the basic form just verbal language? Can you do anything, or can you talk a full day without using facial expressions? Can you understand other things from facial expressions? So this is what we're going to discuss in our lesson here. Now, like these questions, for example, try to communicate or try communicating without speaking. Can I have your pen, please? Are you going to call me after school? I went shopping yesterday. Try to give these questions or ask these questions using non-verbal ways, facial expressions. You can use your gestures, your hands. Can you deliver the message or not? Now, actually, this is in your book, and also there's something else in the book, which is on page number 90. Now write 2 of your own messages on a piece of paper, fold it and set it aside or give it to someone. Use non-verbal language to communicate your message. Check how successful were you. So actually in the book they wrote for you to write some messages for the teacher, but we're going to be open here and you can use it with whoever you wish. So when you explain or when you just write these messages, it's like you're playing the charades game when you are just giving the papers and trying to perform what you have in the paper. And after that, you will see that if you succeeded to deliver the message or not. Here, you are using non-verbal action or non-verbal language. Yes, let's move on. Now, in our lesson, we are going to talk about verbal and non-verbal communication. This is going to be our writing lesson. So the objectives of our writing lesson are to compare between verbal and non-verbal communication, state the characteristics of non-verbal communication, scan for information in topic sentences, give a personal point of view about the types of communication, differentiate between types of essays, organize ideas to write a new essay. Yes. Now we have the statement in the book, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Do you actually understand what the statement means? Now there are some statements or there are some sentences. We're going to see if they are true or not. We have the first one. We're going to explain through here. A picture conveys information more effectively than words. Do you agree or not? Now, some pictures, they can help you and they can have meaning more than words. Is it true or untrue? We have the second one. A picture can tell a story just as well as many words. You can understand a full story. You can understand the whole idea just from one picture. Instead of just giving words and words or writing a complete essay, sometimes a picture can summarize everything. Do you agree? Also, using graphics can convey ideas more effectively than a large number of words. So sometimes a large number of words are not as powerful and they are not useful like just using graphics, which give you simple ideas, but basically they give you the point and they're easier to deliver than words. Do you agree or not? And we have here the last one. Graphic illustration conveys stronger messages than words. Do you think that graphics are actually stronger than words or not? So we have here, these are some sentences that you can agree with or not. So it depends on how you deal with the everyday communication, and do you believe in using pictures and graphics more than words or not? So here, as we said always, that there is no true, complete agreement or not. So it's just a point of view that you can go with or disagree with. Now, just to give you an example, we have here this picture. 1 What can you understand from this picture? 2 What can you understand from this picture? 3 What can you understand from this picture? 4 What can you understand from this picture? 5 What can you understand from this picture? 6 What can you understand from this picture? 7 What can you understand from this picture? 8 What can you understand from this picture? 9 What can you understand from this picture? 10 What can you understand from this picture? 11 What can you understand from this picture? 12 What can you understand from this picture? 13 What can you understand from this picture? 14 What can you understand from this picture? 15 What can you understand from this picture? 16 What can you understand from this picture? 17 What can you understand from this picture? 18 What can you understand from this picture? 19 What can you understand from this picture? 20 What can you understand from this picture? 21 What can you understand from this picture? 22 What can you understand from this picture? 23 What can you understand from this picture? 24 What can you understand from this picture? 25 What can you understand from this picture? 26 What If you see this one, I can tell you from a personal point of view that here I can see an Islamic value which is helping older people. Also, I can tell you that helping the elderly is something well known all over the world. I can also see that we have here they're wearing masks, which means that they are taking their precautions, they are keeping it safe, and they are trying to keep healthy. Here there is also, if he is his son or grandson, we have here he's helping him, which means that there is a strong relationship as a family. Okay, so we have here they have an intimate relationship. So here, these are the ideas that I took from the picture. They may be all included in the picture. It may be just one thing. It may be something else. So sometimes, yes, these graphics or these pictures, they deliver messages and they make you think more than words. Moving on. Now we are going to read the text that we have here on page number 90. We are going to see the main thesis statement, the supporting paragraphs, the arguments used. So here there are three things that we have to see. The first one, that we have here the main thesis statement, which is the topic sentence, but it's not for the paragraph, it's for the whole passage or the whole essay. So actually here I have the whole essay for you. Now this is what we have here on page 90. We are going to see from the start, I want the thesis, so what is the introduction for the whole idea here? Of course, we have here read the text and find the main thesis statement. So since I am looking for the basic idea, and as we applied in our reading lessons, and when we found the topic sentence at the start of the paragraph, which means that I'm going to focus on the first paragraph to look for the thesis. After that, the question, or the second point that we are asked to do, which is look for the supporting paragraphs. How many supporting paragraphs do you have? So when you count them, you can find that you have here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 supporting paragraphs, including number 1. So all of these paragraphs from 2 to 6, they support the introduction or paragraph number 1. And then after that, we have here in the third point, the arguments used. So we have here the arguments. We're going to see what are the arguments. The arguments are going to be something that has or shows the different side or the other point of view. So this is what we're going to discuss in our topic here. We're going to start first of all, since we are going to look for the arguments, we're going to just focus on them in Zoom. Now starting from the beginning, here read the text and find the main thesis statement. We're just going to take this one out. You are going to listen to the reading and then just underline what is or what do you think is the main statement here. Starting.
To mind is words or language. Language is our primary means of communication as human beings, which sets us apart from other species. However, as studies have shown, it is not the only means of communication.
Yes. Now here, I want to just take out the main thesis statement that we have here. Now here, the main idea is what? If you can just see that when people talk about communication, the first thing that comes in mind or to mind is words or language. So we have here, language is our primary means of communication as human beings, which sets us apart from other species. However, which is going to be our argument, however, as studies have shown, it is not the only means of communication. So this is going to be the basic idea, and we're going to argue and see if there is another point of view. Now, the second one, read the text and find the arguments used. So we have here the arguments. We're going to also listen, and you are going to underline. What do you think is the basic idea here? What is the argument?
Think about a photograph taken in the center of a town. It provides information about the buildings, stores and services, people and cars, plants, and all kinds of details if you choose to take the time to look at it more carefully. Now try describing the picture and everything you have identified in it to your friend or write about it. How long do you think it's going to take you? Certainly a lot longer than it takes a photo to convey the same amount of information.
So here we have the same idea, which is a picture can deliver or can be instead of 1,000 words here. So if you have something or you saw something, you can either tell your friend about it, and you can text or just call and you say, I saw this and this and this and this, or just simply take a snapshot and then send the picture or the photo that you had, and then you will have your complete meaning or the thing that you want delivered just in one photo. So the argument that I'm looking for out here is going to be, now try describing the picture and everything you have identified in it to your friend or write about it. How long do you think it's going to take you? Certainly a lot longer than it takes a photo to convey the same amount of information. So this is going to be the argument here in this idea. This is going to be paragraph number 2. Now we're going to start with the second argument in part number 3 or paragraph number 3. Also, ready?
Suppose that you have just acquired the latest electronic gadget. Would you choose to tell your friend about it or show it to him or her? Usually we choose to do the latter, meaning, show it to somebody and point out all the new, amazing features. In other words, pictures and objects can speak for themselves more efficiently and effectively than we can through verbal language.
Yes. Now here also, if you see this paragraph, now if you have a new gadget, do you think it will be easy just to show your friend the gadget that you have and show immediately what are the things that are special in the gadget, or just go on and text and write or just talk about it, giving more details? So in my point of view, that it would be much easier just to show the gadget. Now here the argument in the paragraph is going to be, suppose that you have just acquired the latest electronic gadget. Would you choose to tell your friend about it or show it to him or her? So this is going to be the second point. Let's move on to paragraph number 4.
However, there are situations where a different type of interaction is required, when, for example, you run into somebody you have not seen for some time. You probably want to talk about everything that has happened, ask him her questions, and talk about people you know, and so on. This is definitely a case that requires verbal language.
Yes, now the argument that we have here is going to be from the start. However, there are situations where a different type of interaction is required. So some situations we do not, we cannot just depend on our verbal language. There has to be something else required here. Now we're going to move on to paragraph number 5, which is actually a long paragraph, but it is very enjoyable. So just imagine and visualize the whole idea that you have here in the paragraph. Starting.
On a partly different note, you see a friend you have not seen for some time at a distance, for example different escalators at the airport leading to different lounges. You have both checked through security and cannot go back. And you certainly don't want to start shouting across the airport building. You want to get his/her cell phone number. You probably resort to gesturing by holding your hand next to your ear and pretending to talk. You point to the phone, point to your friend and use a hand gesture to signal what? Pointing back to the imaginary phone. Your friend signals each number by holding up the appropriate number of fingers.
So just to give you more idea about this one, let's just see this clip here. Now imagine that you and your friend are on the escalator here. You are on this side and your friend is on the other side, and you are in an airport. You have flights. You are in a hurry, so there's no time to just go back and talk to your friend. Here, is it better to shout, or just to use some gestures and facial expressions to show that I'll call you later. Just give him the signal or give her the signal for the call. What is your number, for example? Then they will start giving you the number depending on what it is or anything else. So we have here this kind of gesture that we have here, or these nonverbal language usages, is something very important that we can use. And we're going to see the argument. Where is actually the argument we have here? Yes, you can see there are two parts actually here. We're going to start. On a partly different note, you see a friend you have not seen for some time at a distance, for example. And then go to the other part, which is you probably resort to gesturing by holding your hand and so on. So it depends on what? On gesturing. So this is going to be our, here, the argument, leading to the last paragraph, paragraph number 6. So we're going to see the last part. Yes?
In other words, although language is important and allows us to communicate facts, feelings, thoughts, experiences, and practically everything and anything that we are interested in, it is not the only way we communicate with each other. As studies have shown, about 60% of human communication is carried out through nonverbal means, for example facial expression, gestures, or illustration. Maybe we should keep this in mind when we are at a loss for words. Our eyes and overall expression can convey what we cannot express through words.
Okay, so here our last argument is going to be, as studies have shown, about 60% of human communication is carried out through non-verbal means, for example, facial expression, gestures, or illustration. So here, we have here, these are the basic ideas, these are the arguments that included to just show that yes, verbal language is something very important and actually something that we do every day, even if we do not realize it. Now we are going to move to the second part, which is your turn, and as usual we are going to link between our topic and something else. Now we have here on page number 91, think of an Arab man or woman and a non-Arab man or woman you know personally or from TV. So the idea here, if you have someone who is Arab and non-Arab, that the language or the communication between them will be something more than just the verbal. We are going to compare between them. Think about the way these people communicate. Research and collect information about culture-specific features of communication. Do you think they communicate in a way that is typical of their culture? Write your ideas in a chart. Now you are going to write the Arab person's name, the non-Arab person's name. Then you have after that culture-specific communication features and communication features that are not culture-specific. So something is going to be just special for each person and something which is not culture-specific. You are going to compare between the two, and as we said, or as the book said actually, that you can compare between someone that you know or someone famous. You can use, of course, gestures and facial expressions, as we took here in the reading or in the parts that we discussed. Have you heard or ever heard about students' exchange programs or programs that team up schools from different countries? This is just an example they have in the book. Now, actually, yes, there are schools all around the world that exchange and communicate with schools in other countries. And of course, they learn different cultures. It's not something that is unusual that they do not understand each other in everything, but they learn from each other. So we have here students who are involved in such projects require online communication, and they are given the opportunity to find out about other cultures, as we said, on a personal basis beyond national stereotypes. This is something interesting, and this is something that you can link to. And actually in the book they have an example, a friend from Sweden and a friend from Poland. And we have here, just go back here. Yes, there is a kind of a letter or a comparison in the book that is explaining or describing the connection between the two people here. After that, we have here number 3, which is depending on you. Write an essay about the communication approaches used by each person. Give examples to support your ideas. So you are going to do the same thing, but you are going to write this time a comparative essay. You are going to compare between the two people that you chose. You are going to just write a complete essay. It's not a table. You are going to write the essay, or we are going to write the essay comparing between two characters. Put in mind that you took in Unit 5, there was a kind of comparison in the book between the expository essay and the persuasive essay. Now we are going to cancel these two, and now you have the third type, which is going to be the comparative essay. We are going to write the comparative essay, and of course do not forget what we have in our writing corner. When you write a comparative or a contrastive essay, put in mind, consider the different sides of the issue, of course, because you're comparing between two parts. Develop a list of similarities and differences. So we are not just going to look from one side. There has to be a lot of similarities and at the same time some differences. Establish your basis for comparison. Create a thesis for their relative importance. For example, similarities outweigh differences. So we have here the thesis that is like the one that we took in our lesson at the beginning. After that, structure your essay using an alternating or a block structure, and you have here a complete explanation. We have here an alternating structure involves a point-by-point discussion and can be quite systematic and analytic, so which means that you are going to take them part by part and you are going to just try to explain each point. And then we have the other part, which is the block method, allows you to discuss each aspect or topic in distinct blocks and then conclude. So here, this is going to be our homework, and we are going to do it as we did it in Unit 5. We are going to just take it step by step. Now we know what is the basic topic. We are going to just gather our ideas and discuss them tomorrow. The table that we have here, we're going to fill them, and we have here, we're going to just see how we can make the essay in general. And after that, in the last lesson, at the end of the week, we are going to just share what are the essays that we have. So as a start, our homework is going to be just to choose two figures, compare them, show the similarities, and show the differences. So we have here at the end, we discussed types of communication. We read and searched for how to write the thesis, and then we have here the arguments. Highlighted arguments, of course, and organized writing steps. Now we know what we are going to do, and we know what is the first step in our homework. So until tomorrow, just keep thinking and think about your characters or your figures. Write the table, and we'll complete, inshallah, in the next lesson.